Hello. Happy Friday. Freedom Friday. Flow State Friday. I figured I would release a short little episode each Friday from now on, after I induce a flow state. And I just feel very in the zone. I got a lot of thoughts and ideas at the top of my mind, and I'm just going to let them out, and we'll see where it goes. So I was thinking about this path to discovering truth, or this path that maybe a psychedelic journey would take one on. The idea of getting to a higher state of consciousness, to a higher state of being, and to a higher state of love. That idea that harnessing that feeling and holding on to that feeling and making that feeling represent an identity that you can put your finger on is still sort of a game or a trap. Not a it could be a trap, but it's sort of a game that you can play. And, you know, there's limits to truth. I think it's relative, and I think that when we're looking for we have the questions about why we're here and who we are and all these sorts of things. There's an answer to that, but we just can't understand it. It's something that we just can't understand. We have the language that we use to make symbols to try and make sense of it and to understand it, but it's just a knowing. It's just a isness, a beingness, a momentary but also permanent feeling. And that's why it's so mysterious and it's so complex. And I think the search to find what connects you with that wavelength can happen in a variety of different ways. And there's a variety of different kinds of characters that you can play and games that you can play. And I think that I've, listening to a little bit of Ram Dass lately, listening to him talk about, looking at his story and how it played out and that sort of thing. He was Richard Alpert, the Harvard professor. And he could have, I guess it was almost a necessity in order for him to travel to India. He kind of had to take on this kind of look, this kind of certain presence and sort of vibe in order to make himself, to make it feel real, to make it real. Not just to make it feel real, to make it real. And I think that's the key. That's the trick of it all. Whatever your particular thing is, whatever you happen to be open to, but this everything connects, And when we talk about, we can't separate the individual from the greater mass of society and the institutions and the systems that we create, because those all come out of the individual. So what we need to do is we need to look at two of them as like a symbiotic organism, a symbiotic creature together. They work together. They function together. And so we have the kind of individuals we have, and we have the kind of games that we play, and the kind of reality that we've created. You know, we've created a certain kind of reality. To serve a certain kind of purpose, for certain kinds of individuals, for certain levels of consciousness, are favored over other levels of consciousness. Fear is used as an instrument for control. But if you have no fear, you can't be controlled. You know, any physical pain that one can inflict on the body means nothing, because once you realize that we are, you know, you can't kill that. You can't maim that. You can't take that away. You know, it's not to say that we shouldn't care about our lives, and that, we shouldn't care about death and murder. Of course we should care about that. We should, because people should, this is a good life, this is a good opportunity to be in this body. When I say in this body, I mean that. Like, I think my entire life, I was never really able to articulate it, but I don't identify with being a man, or a white man, or being a New Yorker, or being Italian, or being chubby, or being or having or being muscular or whatever. I'm trying to think of different things, but I identify with just like this beingness, and I think that out of that beingness, it's like, well, okay, the beingness is in this incarnation, in this body, in this form. I happen to be a man. I happen to be descended from a place on this earth that we identify as being called Italy, where they have a particular kind of language and so on and so forth. And I happen to come from a particular kind of people, the Italian American people, but I don't. I don't feel that those things, those things are just constructs. Those things are just kind of ideas. I just feel a sense of oneness and beingness with everybody, that I feel that's where I connect with people, on that level, on that kind of beyond label, beyond identity level, on that just kind of that presence that we all have of life force inside of us, that whatever that is, we call it consciousness, but whatever the beingness of life force that we have that's inside of us, that makes us, that gives us our world, that births us our world, that births us alive into reality and gives us perspective, whatever that magical isness is, that's what I identify with. And that doesn't stop, just, it doesn't have a limit. It's not like capped off inside my body. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And so that's why I really like to talk about things in terms of games and kind of, players in games and identity. It's just like we create all these things because it's interesting. and it's fun. This is a lot of this stuff is not so super serious. Super serious, super serious. No, there's a time and a place to kind of tap into that energy, tap into that seriousness, and look at it and see it. But the whole thing is, we are in the we are birthed into this world where there's such diversity, where there's so much uniqueness, there's so much life, there's so much of a diverse array of emotions and sensations and pleasures and pains and traumas, and we're tapping into all of it. That is, the experience of life and life, the life force experiencing itself, tickling itself. It's the life force tickling itself, saying, let's play. And I think that's what a lot of my frustration has come out of me kind of knowing this and feeling this way, but having not being able to communicate it properly and not knowing how to tell other people. So many times when I look at other people and I look in their eyes and I'm just like, I just wonder, like, do you know? Do you know? Maybe you don't know, but maybe you do deep down. If you just got all that clutter, all that gook, all that like system, outer world system stuff that gets clogged onto you. That's why it's so important for us if we discover who we are and we discover ourselves and we discover the truth of what this reality is and how it can be changed and be kind of shaped and molded into whichever way that we like. Once we discover that kind of notion and that presence, then we can create better forms of, better kinds of games and better kinds of systems and better kinds of things, so that when people are birthed into this reality, they're not taken through, they don't have to kind of rediscover who they are because they have to go through all of this kind of bullshit that is laid out. It's like, an obstacle course or something like that. We could actually get people to wake up and come out and play a lot earlier. And then by doing that, we design our world to be in a different way. In we put priorities on different things. I think I've talked about this before, but the currency, we it's all of these things that we use, they're all belief systems. They're all just constructs and belief systems. If the free voluntary exchange between individuals, free individuals is what it's all about. And if we're able to create a system that allows for people to engage in those kinds of behaviors in a healthy and positive way, without kind of dark forces trying to hijack the beauty of the free market and the voluntarism, then we can birth new kinds of modalities into existence, new systems and new kinds of education systems, new kinds of jobs. We could have jobs that are... I remember when I went to Coachella in 2012, and I had such a mind-blowing time that I was, joking around. I was just saying, I'm going to run for president in 2020, and I'm going to run on the platform of Coachella every day. And, what I meant by that was, it's such a wonderful place where where it's just heightened with everything that human beings enjoy. Love, music, drugs, sex, outdoors, nature, food, just all of it. And everybody's happy. Everybody's sharing. Everybody's caring. Nobody's in a bad mood. Nobody's grumpy. Nobody's annoyed. Nobody's fighting. It's literally was the most joyous place that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I saw that as the potential that we have for humanity. You know, imagine a world where there's a place where you go and you visit that place, and their whole thing is that they just put on music shows every day. And that's kind of what the town does. So everybody rotates and they have a job. Sometimes they work at the concession stand, or sometimes they work at the Ferris wheel, or sometimes they work at the DJ booth or whatever. Everybody's invested in, let's make this our reality every day. And when you have people invested in believing and making a particular kind of vision, putting a particular kind of vision in existence, in a permanent space, well, that's everything, baby. I mean, that's what it is. That's how you create a new world. And this isn't going to happen on a massive scale, like, you know, the countrywide scale, because everybody's different. Everybody has different, you know, likes and things like that. And that's why I think that the best thing to do is for us to secede, you know, secession. Secession is this idea that, you know, the states withdraw you withdraw from the federal government and you become your own sovereign property, your own sovereign space, your own sovereign territory. And I think that is the most crucial thing. And now I think that there's definitely a way that we can all get together and form a kind of a union. You know, I think a lot of people think that, you know, secession, like what we saw with Brexit, oh, that's no good because that's not uniting the world. No. We can still unite the world, but it doesn't have to be through the power structures, through the banking interests, and through the government and through the corporations. We can do it as people, as human beings, as individuals. We can unite together and decide to come together and to create a place where we have peace, love, or whatever, you know. But in my version of that place, it would be peace, love, happiness. I would want to live in a place where it's like some kind of combination between the Shire from Lord of the Rings and Coachella, and, you know, like something like, you know, maybe a little Burning Man. I've never been, but, you know, I'd like to go. But some kind of cool environment, and, you know, and if that gets kind of boring for you over and over again, well, great, you can travel and you can go to another place, and there's another, you know, you can go to another town where maybe some people are doing things a little bit differently over there. You know, maybe their town is more closely related to the version of reality that we live in now. And so what I'm saying is that, you know, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Nothing can stop this idea of freedom. Freedom to be who you are, freedom to be everything that you want to be, and freedom to be that with others, to get together with others who have the same feeling as you, and to create those things totally outside of the system, outside of the current rules and parameters of this game. You know, creating things that are innovative and that are pushing, you know, technology forward and things like that aren't necessarily. That's not necessarily the only path. That's the path within the current model of this game, of this version of reality, that is allowed by the power structures. They allow that. So, you know, fuck it. Mask off. Fuck it. Mask off. Take your mask off. Take all your masks off. All your games that you play. All your rationalizations for everything. Just let it all just shed. You know, meditate. Breathe. Go deep. Reach in. And, you know, defy labels. You know, you don't need to be. Your identity doesn't need to be one of somebody who is, you know, like, for example, for me, like, it's like I'm a psychedelic podcast guy. Well, all right, sure. I guess that's one aspect of what I do. I'm funny sometimes. There's a lot of aspects of what I do. I just am. And the more and more I'm learning to trust that feeling, the more at peace I feel. Just being what I am. Calling it how I see it. But it can be hard for a lot of people. It can be hard for a lot of people. People get into certain kinds of teachers, certain kinds of authors, certain kinds of techniques, methods. These are all games. They're all games. Just you can play them, but just recognize that you're playing a game. You're playing a specific character. You're living out a specific kind of role. And if you can identify that, you can have fun with it. You can have fun with that. You don't need to be chained down and burdened by behaviors and habits and normalizations that have occurred before you, that have been kind of accepted. I'll be pretty honest. I mean, when I first discovered psychedelics and I first started having these kinds of thoughts, I thought people would perceive me as crazy, so I didn't really expose them. I didn't really say them. I stuck to doing my libertarian podcast, and I kind of stuck within the parameters of acceptable talk within that kind of community. This is going beyond that, and it's just something that I think has been a natural occurrence, a natural progression. So, in this short little Flow State Friday episode, I hope these kinds of ideas, these points, I'm able to get them out there and communicate them in a way that's easily understandable. But then again, it's hard to think that it's easy, I think, to think that you understand something. You think that you have an understanding because you understand it from this guy Peter Sage, who was on the London Real podcast. I became exposed to him. Said something like, you kind of you can kind of have a intelligent understanding of something. Like, you can understand how something works. You can understand the concept of it. You can understand yourself understanding it. You can say, okay, I understand how this kind of logically breaks down. I understand how this works. But it's not until you have kind of an emotional experience that resonates with you, that hits you, that really reinforces that understanding to a true understanding. And I think that only comes with direct experience. I think that we need to trust ourselves, go inward, and use direct experience. And speaking of inward, I should probably tell a little. I love this story that Wim Hof tells on his video course. He has a video course for his class, the Wim Hof method, and he tells this great story about man's search for the soul. It's like a journey or whatever, and he says, okay, so there's these wizards sitting around, and they're these, like, the magical wizards, and they say, what do we do with the soul? Because man is always looking for it. Where do we put it? What do we do? And one of the wizards says, oh, well, put it on the highest mountain on earth. And he goes, well, the other wizard says, like, no, we can't put it up there because he's, people, they're like ants. They go up there, they crawl, they get the thing, they bring it down, they say, look what I found, look at me, look at this. And they put it, they have a party, they show their friends. And then the other wizard says, okay, well, what if we put it at the deepest part of the ocean? And they say, that could work, And then the other one says, no, no, no. They'll, invent something, some kind of submarine, something that makes them go underwater. They could breathe underwater. They'll invent some kind of machine like that. And, they're always inventing something, some kind of machine or something. They'll find it. They'll bring it back. They'll put it in a museum. They'll look at it. People will oh, look at this, the soul. And then another wizard says, I know, we'll put it at the furthest reaches of outer space. And then another wizard says, no, because they're human beings. They explore. They're explorers. They'll build a ship. They'll build something. They'll find a way. They'll go out there. They'll get it. They'll come back. They'll think that they have it all, and they'll keep doing that, traveling. So then they're all like just confused, and they're sitting around, and then like finally one of the wizards says, I know. What if we hide it in a place where man never really looks? Put it inside of himself. And all the wizards agreed that would be a good place to put the soul. So it's a nice little story, I think, and I like that one, And I like it because it's a nice story about, kind of getting trapped in what Chongyong Trungpa Rinpoche would say is spiritual materialism. Getting trapped in the search for meaning, and then getting that meaning, and then going, aha, I've got meaning now. I'm a real somebody, I'm a real something. Look at me. Look at how long I can meditate for. Look at how long I can, And so, it's something to just be careful of. To be careful of when exploring for, answers or for relief or whatever it is that you're looking for or something like that. Because really what you want is you want peace. You want freedom. You want freedom and peace. And so just, to cap things off, I guess, on this Flow State Friday episode, I might be running out of my flow state. I think I gotta bail. But basically, that was just my thought. It's just like, look, like, we're everybody on this planet right now is currently engaged in pursuing something. Getting to something, wanting something, needing something, yearning for something, wishing something was, wishing something wasn't. But when you just are, and when you just accept things as they are, and you accept yourself as you are, that's when you have the most clarity. That's when you have the most clarity, and you're able to look out and to see where the problems are. Where are the distortions with this flow? How can we invite more people to enjoy what we enjoy, or what we've enjoyed, or what I've experienced specifically? How do we do that? Now, I think I came up with a couple ideas here, but it's really not necessarily it's more of a question for the scared monkeys that are the ones throwing shit everywhere, locked in their egos and their, of course I'm talking the people who are power hungry. The people who want power. The politicians, the corporations, anybody engaged in this kind of hierarchical, kind of dominating power game. It's a game, and it could be a fun game, actually. It could be a fun game. But there's certain kinds of aspects of the game that we need to tweak just to increase the opportunity for individuals to have a little bit more peace and happiness and joy in their lives. And that really would just be, stop kidnapping people for altering their consciousness in whichever way they choose, ingesting whatever they want without hurting anybody else. And these messages all make sense logically and everything, but there's just people that will not follow, that will not respect that. They won't respect that. And so, it's really this real kind of primordial thing that you have to tap into, that you have to touch within yourself. And it's just like, when I identify myself, I do identify myself as being this being and everything, but I am a man, and I feel like, I want to be as much as a warrior as I possibly can. Like, I am alive, I am a man, and I don't want other men telling me what I can and can't do. I don't want any. This is not. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And it's only because the masses of people conspire to believe in the system that we currently have, in this system of power, this hierarchical kind of illusion of authority, this illusion that we give power to a certain kind of human being who plays a certain kind of role in a certain kind of game, and that they're somehow superior to you or me. They're not. And so, it's really about standing your ground and just standing up for what is right. And if we could just tweak those couple things, then people can do whatever the hell they want. You can worship Jesus, you could worship Allah, you can have a be Ted Cruz. If that's who he wants to be, then be that guy. I don't be just you're free to be whoever you want to be. But when other human beings start killing and maiming and torturing and hurting and forcing other people to do things, that's the negative dark force that fights, that eats us up. And we all have it inside of us. We do it to ourselves, and then we do it to each other. And so that's why it's so important to get in touch with who you are, so you don't do that to yourself anymore. So you wake up, so you come out and play in the field of awakened consciousness and light and love. And we can't do these sorts of things by legislation. We can't make people be nicer. We can't. That's the whole thing. Free from Force Friday, Freedom Friday, Flow State Friday. Free from force. When we're free from force, we're allowed to flower and grow, and then we can create much more interesting, beautiful, and wonderful experiences, because now is all there is, and this is the time to do it. There's no other time than now. If we want to enjoy some kind of ecstatic state, some kind of Coachella everyday atmosphere, some kind of Burning Man sense of infused into reality, that that we should have the freedom to separate. We should have the freedom to find the others, connect with our like-minded individuals and peers, form groups and communities, and tribes and live out, act out the realities that we want to see. Live fully in the roles that we want to play within the game that we so desire to play, that ignites our soul and that fills us with love and just oneness and trueness, and gives us uplifting love to be alive, that feeling that you just love to be alive. We can create more of that in this world. We're not going to, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be magic. We're not going to live in utopia where everybody's going to be singing and dancing together, because some people are just not going to go along with that's their version of reality. That's their, it's like reality is like a television, and there's all kinds of different channels, and I want to be on the channel that's like the most fun and the most chill and the most cool, and whoever wants to tune into that channel can tune in. But there's all these other channels that we have too, and that should be allowed to exist. If you want to watch the Fox News channel, or if you want to watch the History Channel, you can go ahead and you can tune into that version of reality. If you want to watch the reality TV channel, and in a way, people kind of are. When you tune into television, it does kind of program you. You're looking at I remember taking a class in college where we proved that the effects of somebody watching crime dramas like CSI, NCIS, Law and Order, that they actually perceive the world to be more likely to be that way than another version of reality. So everything related back to Law and Order and NCIS, their perception of the world was more geared towards that version of reality that the shows created. So we live in this great television, and we can change the channel to any reality we want, but we can't do it when there's somebody with a gun pointing it to us and saying, you leave it on this channel. Everything imagine that. Imagine if television was all one channel and the internet all one channel. There's only one channel. Or maybe there's a bunch of different channels, but it's all owned by the same person, and it's basically the same kind of content, same kind of stuff, same flavor. Well, that's not what we want. We want a reality that exists where there's multiple channels, and you can click into whichever one you want, and you can live fully in your being as that. All right. I think that's it. Flow State Friday. I hope this was a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Going to have some awesome episodes coming out in the future. Stay tuned. If you like the show, please go on to iTunes and leave me a nice rating and review. Also, check out my Patreon page. I made a Patreon page a little while ago. Go there. It's Patreon, www.patreon.com/Mike Brank, BRANC. Thank you guys for listening to this. Peace out. Have a good weekend.